Hi, I'm Eric Slack, Senior Analyst with Evaluator Group, and today we're going to talk about the cost of the cloud versus a hyperconverged solution. You know, the cloud has become a viable alternative for a lot of companies. It's an option for running many important applications. The decision to use the cloud can be like the decision to outsource in a lot of ways. It seems pretty straightforward, but how do you make that decision? Well, usually it starts with economics, which often means a TCO analysis, or total cost of ownership. TCO is a process that helps uncover what the true costs are for a product or service. This includes the invisible cost, not just the sticker price. In IT, this is the cost of all the steps that a company goes through when they decide to build or replace infrastructure. We're talking about design, test, installation and integration, plus the personnel side, which is IT and end users, as well as ongoing costs, including expansion. For a lot of companies, the cloud does make sense, economic and otherwise. This leads to what I call the cloud assumption. You know, given the cost and complexity of traditional on-site infrastructures, it's easy to assume that the cloud will save you money. But what about hyperconverged infrastructures? Is the cloud assumption accurate when we're talking about hyperconverged? That's what we want to look at with a TCO model comparing the cloud with on-site infrastructure, specifically a hyperconverged appliance from SimpliVity. Hyperconverged infrastructures combine the discrete components, storage, compute, and storage networking, into a scale-out modular topology using industry-standard hardware. For this model, we compare the total cost of supporting just over 200 VMs on SimpliVity with the cost of running the same number of VMs in Amazon Web Services, or AWS. For SimpliVity, this was a cluster with a redundant node for high availability, plus the costs of labor and hosting. For AWS, we chose the 3-year, all upfront reserved pricing and amortized the upfront fees over 36 months. This was the lowest cost option for AWS services and the one that most closely resembled a traditional infrastructure purchase. For AWS, the total monthly cost for our 206 VMs was about $62 per VM. The cost for 206 VMs on SimpliVity was a little less, about $60 per VM. Not a big difference, about 4%, but this means that the cloud assumption is in error. But when we scale the infrastructure, as is often what happens in the real world, the numbers changed. When we expand the cluster to support more VMs, the AWS costs stay roughly the same. But the cost for the on-site infrastructure, the SimpliVity cluster, drops significantly. By the time we get to a 515 VM setup, the cost differential is dramatic. It's 22% more to run the cloud at AWS's lowest all-upfront price, and 49% more at their most expensive on-demand price. For a typical company, that cost differential can really add up. We're talking $250,000 over a 3-year lifespan. So why is the hyperconverged solution lower? Well, with hyperconverged, you're buying less gear than with traditional infrastructure. And by combining the server and storage functions into the same box, we eliminate hardware, complexity, and integration, and we save a lot of money. On the OpEx side, hyperconverged infrastructures are designed to be easy to use all the way around, often run by non-IT people, which also saves money. Hyperconverged technologies really change the game from a cost perspective. Specifically, the design process is a few configuration steps. Installation, less than an hour. They're easy to use. Hyperconverged systems reduce the management tasks essentially to the VM level. Operational costs are lower. They're designed essentially for non-IT personnel after all. And scaling is simple and non-disruptive. You just add nodes. Okay, so what do we learn? The cloud assumption is obsolete. Compared with a hyperconverged solution, the cloud doesn't cost less. And the economics of hyperconverged just get better as you scale. Which is a good thing since these cluster systems are designed to scale easily and in manageable increments. These really are pay-as-you-grow solutions. The cloud is a good option for many use cases, but its economics are not a given. As we show in this TCO model, the cloud costs more than a comparable hyperconverged infrastructure. This is Eric Slack with the Evaluator Group, and thanks for watching.